Now, sitting opposite me is John Bell, who's about to make his professional big-time stage debut.
That is correct, yes.
I don't know why, but I always thought John Bell came from the stage and was, doing all this stage work and then got plucked into TV and screen and what have you.
I think that's more like the typical route, but I started my career in such a sort of odd way. I won a Blue Peter competition when I was 8 years old to win a part in Doctor Who, and that was my first ever professional job.
Whoa. I knew you were in Doctor Who. I had
Yeah.
no idea how it came.
I'm a Blue Peter winner. So that's how it started.
What did you have to do to win it?
We had to record a monologue that was about 5 minutes in length. We then sent it into the Blue Peter. They judged them all, brought us down to a final 10, a final 3, and then eventually I won it. So I've got all of my whole career, I've got to thank Russell T Davies and Andy Pryor for choosing me at 8 years old.
Oh, it was that Doctor Who.
That Doctor Who.
Which Doctor was it?
David Tennant, Bello Scott.
Wow.
Yeah. So I kind of,
And who were you?
I played a character called Crete, who ended up becoming an absolute villain in the show as well, a Toclafane, for all the geeks out there.
But you always remember, Tennant is your Doctor Who.
Tennant is my
Mine
Doctor.
was Peter Davison. I was an extra.
Nice.
On Doctor Who when Peter Davison was the Doctor.
Oh, how fab.
And so that's how it remains in your head. Is it?
Yeah, totally.
But
so that was it was an odd way to start because I started with such a big screen job. And then as I've kind of progressed through my career, I've always kind of had this hankering to do stage, get back to the craft, know, what it's all about. And then this
but hang on, I want to stay with Doctor Who for a second.
To me.
Because do you do all the exhibitions and all those things?
The conventions.
You get invited to those? Do you do those?
I do, yeah, but I'm a triple threat when it comes to the geeks because I've got Doctor Who, I've got Doctor Who, I've got the Hobbit films,
yeah,
and then Outlander. So I'm sorted.
I mean, I've got
so
to
many
tell you,
amazing fans
those things,
out there.
The great thing about the Doctor was I was an extra.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing is, it was the one that I did was the TV debut of Martin Clunes.
Right.
He was in it, and Jonathan Morris from Bread was in it, and it was quite a good cast. And it was a two-parter, so I was in 2 parts, and I did it, and I used to get 50 quid a day or something. It was nice. I was a bodyguard, with a sword, and you forget about it and you move on. And over the years, I've done lots of things, but I keep getting letters from people with these stills of please sign this.
Totally.
Can you sign these 9 photos?
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Because it really is incredible.
It's such a legacy. Yeah, it's so just to have a little part of it. So proud of that.
It is something. You do feel like you're actually part of something, don't you? Mm-hmm. And as you say, the conventions, but now with all 3, do you do any of those?
Yeah, I just got back from doing one in Kansas City for Outlander.
Oh my
God. Had a great time out there. It's just amazing to be able to share that with people that you make these shows and you kind of think, oh, we're not saving lives, we're not doing anything. But actually when you get to meet these people, that it means so much to them. They built a community around it, and you get to share in that joy. It makes it all worth it. It's great.
It must be marvelous to be that big a part of something because I think that much more so than any other drama, cop drama, or maybe even the sitcoms have a bigger. The followers of these things are really,
dedicated.
Yeah. Dedicated, that's a good word. Mm-hmm. Yeah, geeks is disrespectful, but they are hugely
I'm a geek.
dedicated.
I was put it out there. I would definitely
obsessive.
Obsessive.
Have you ever seen Battlestar Galactica?
No, I haven't.
Is that the one I'm talking about? Battlestar Galactica, the comedy with Rickman? No. Which one am I talking about? Somebody help me. Somebody text me quickly or tweet me in and tell me what was the space thing that Alan Rickman was in, and Tim, the guy off of Toy Story. Anyway, that starts at a convention.
Yes.
It is really Galaxy Quest.
Oh, right, okay.
Galaxy, thank you. Yeah. Galaxy. It starts at a convention. Mm-hmm. I want. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
Okay, I will do. Yeah,
because it's really, really funny.
Good.
Really fun. So let's move on. So we're now having to change tack. Because your theatre debut is at the New Wimbledon Theatre.
Correct, New Wimbledon Theatre.
Starting 7th of February, very quick.
We're starting 3rd of February. 3rd of February to the 26th.
Previews.
Yep, 7th.
So have you started rehearsals?
We have, yeah. We started rehearsals. We've putting it all together. We're devising it. We have such a great starting point with the script. Of course, this was originally done on Broadway, off-Broadway, in the 90s.
Right, we're talking about The Night Larry Kramer Kissed Me.
Yes, we are. And so now we're really kind of updating it, bring it into this time, but also paying homage to the roots that it is. It's a period piece set in the 80s.
Well, it's absolutely a period piece. If we can talk the audience through it, if they don't know. Larry Kramer was a writer in his own right.
Yes, well, Larry Kramer was like a very important figure in the AIDS activism movement during the 80s, you know. Yeah. He really led the fight in so many ways. He was known as the loose cannon mouth that got people listening.
Yeah.
So when this play came on, The Normal Heart, about him, a young actor at the time, David Drake, went to see The Normal Heart and wrote this play in response to that. The Normal Heart, of course, that was just on at the National Theatre a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So they're very compatible pieces. Let's just explain to people, because time's passed on.
Yeah.
About the early days, not just the early days, because the whole thing lasted a long time. The AIDS pandemic is now the word we're using, isn't it? We're going through a pandemic now. When AIDS started, this was a disease suddenly came along that was killing people very slowly and very painfully and very nastily killing people. And it was centered around the gay community. It wasn't only the gay community, but it was known as the gay plague.
Yeah.
Now, let me just explain that phrase to some of our younger listeners. When they started calling it the gay plague, they used the word plague intentionally in its medieval form.
Absolutely.
Which was a punishment. That's what they meant when they said, even the people who used it for the fourth time, they'd heard it from someone for something. Maybe they didn't even know that's why they would use it. But that's why they were using it, because it was seen amongst most of the establishment and most of the establishment press as a punishment.
Yeah.
For the gay community, for the terrible evils they were committing. They were being punished by this terrible disease.
Yeah.
And that attitude
was so medieval, as you say. Yeah.
It was huge and it was prevalent.
It's true. I think there's an argument to be made that actually the real pandemic of that time was actually the homophobia that existed then, alongside this.
Yeah.
People just were not paying attention. People didn't want to know about it.
Well, if you can contrast it with what we're going through at the moment. And what we're going through at the moment is a disease, a serious disease, definitely, COVID, that has had every single resource in the world has been thrown at this. And a vaccine was arrived at 10 years before most vaccines would arrive. And we had a virologist on this show who said, don't be suspicious of that. The vaccine was arrived at as quickly as it was because laboratories were open 24/7 with shifts of laboratory workers, and every penny that was diverted from everything to be thrown into this. Well, AIDS was around for a couple of years before anyone even started.
Yeah. It was the invisible killer, the unprintable killer, until it became so much of a problem that finally they had to pay attention. And our play is all about one young man's journey as through his self-discovery, finding out who he is during that time. I'm blessed as a young gay man to be able to explore who I am during this day and age where it is widely accepted. Back then, it would just be a completely different experience. So this is why it's been so amazing to do this play, because you really get to appreciate who you are and where your people have come from.
Looking back, or as a young guy, as a young gamer, now you look back, now you're reading it. I don't know how much you'd read about the beforehand.
Yeah, it's always been there. There's been stories, of course. You know, we've kind of gone through a bit of a rebirth of these stories at the moment, with The Normal Heart coming out, of course, the success of It's a Sin. It just feels like the right time to tell these stories.
But were you aware of that? Were you aware of?
Definitely, yeah.
Of the attitudes that were prevalent at that time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, God, I was born in, 1997, so, you know, Keith Haring, incredible gay artist, died in 1990. It really wasn't that long ago when you actually think about it, you know? So, yeah, I was aware of it. But through this, I have had the opportunity to even have more experience and more research, which is so important to do for...
I mean... Larry Kramer, although is quite a controversial figure within the gay community, because he wrote quite cuttingly about the way that the gay community, this is in San Francisco we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, San Francisco, New York, this kind of
area, was conducting itself and saying, look, you've got to make some changes here.
Yeah.
You are not immortal and you are not invincible. And this disease is showing you that, okay? And so you have to, and he wasn't universally popular within the gay.
He wasn't universally liked at all, no. But what he did was he knocked on doors and he got people listening.
Yes.
You know?
Because he'd written a play before it. I want to say it was called Slappers, but it wasn't called Slappers,
right.
But it was similar to that. And it was about the openness of the gay scene and how, you know, how people were really the gay cruising scene and how people were really
totally. I mean, it was a liberating moment, you know, because, well, look at the Stonewall riots were 1969, so fast forward 10 years, 15 years, there's this attitude change. People are accepting that people are allowed to go out and do these things. Of course, there was this sort of feeling of finally, you know, and then AIDS came along and completely changed that. So it's hard to tell people to stop going out and enjoying themselves, you know. But
absolutely,
I mean, but you know, it was important to at the time.
But have you? So presumably you've done your research and you've looked into the, you know, the way people were, and the way the press was. I remember one particular story. Some nuns died. Because they were working with AIDS patients who were treating them, and some nuns died. And there was an article in, I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the respectable papers that said, we now have to take this seriously. Yeah. And it was like, I'm sorry? Because, no, these nuns, it wasn't their fault. Oh, hang on, this is someone's fault.
Oh, yeah, totally. Who are we blaming here?
Yeah, and that is the kind of, how does the play deal with that?
The play deals with that in so many ways. I mean, the play really starts with him at 6, kind of who he's becoming, and then as it goes on, we start to explore more what he does in order to feel that he has to survive through this. You know, it's like going to the gym or finding ways to escape this killer stalking him, and then we really go into more of a moment where it becomes a vigil. It becomes a point of remembrance for the lost generation, for all the gay men and women at the time who were lost. So yeah, it deals with it, but it's not just, I don't want it to seem like it's a very like down in the dumps or like, you know, kind of sobering play. It's not. There is a lot of joy in it as well. You know, anyone going through that time where they're discovering themselves, that's exciting too, but it's just this kind of, it's the balance between them both that I think that makes this play really interesting to me.
Okay, we're going to take a very quick break. Let's sell something and then we'll come back. See, and of course we talk about it now as something that happened. It is still happening. It's still, people are now living quite full lives.
Absolutely.
HIV, but it used to be that if you were HIV, then you were going to get AIDS. There was no question about that, and you were going to die.
It was a death sentence.
Yeah, it was literally
but
that.
But now, not at all. It's the complete opposite. Yeah, which is incredible. Yeah,
but it took probably 20 years.
20 years, and it took a lot of people that are no longer here. That should still
Exactly.
be here.
Whereas this pandemic was dealt with a lot more quickly. So even those are the kind of things you look at and realize that the attitude then wasn't like it is now. My God, people are dying. People are really getting ill with it. Let's all spring into action.
Yeah.
Let's do whatever we can to make it. That wasn't the attitude.
Yeah,
at
as
all.
we were saying earlier, I mean, it's this idea of us and them.
Us and them.
You know,
it's their disease.
It's their disease, their problem.
Yeah.
You know,
their fault.
Their fault.
Wow.
But it's important, I think, to remember during that time as well that there was also such a celebration of life too. You know, when you look at shows like Pose and It's a Sin, yes, there was this invisible killer out there, but it was a renaissance for gay culture too. You know, the voguing scene in the ballroom scene in New York and here in the UK. You know, it wasn't all just
no, absolutely. Well, tell us about the play.
Well, the play is a young man's story of self-discovery, really.
And you're that young man.
And I'm that young man. It's a one-man show. So it is, it's his journey through from being very young at 6 years old to kind of discovering who he is, discovering his sexuality, overcoming the homophobia of that time, finding his tribe, finding his voice, and then eventually, because of the AIDS pandemic, finding his call in life, which is towards activism, towards doing something, towards making a change, spending his time to fight the AIDS crisis and the homophobia at the time.
And how similar has it been for you? I mean, not up to the activism point, but from the beginnings of it, how similar has it been to you and your life?
I guess I fell into acting really kind of almost feels like by chance. So I have an amazing kind of way of looking back at my life. I can look at all the different jobs I've done and seen myself grow over that time on camera. This is why, as much as I'm doing stage, my first love has always been screen, because it's a time capsule. You know, you're locked in at that moment, and nothing can change that moment that you've got forever. So I really I learned who I was, traveling the world, making films, making TV, surrounded by incredible artists that always inspired me and gave me pride in who I was, you know. So, yeah.
Tell us about that then, this difference, because it's always seemed to me from actors that you talk to, one of the reasons I love the theatre is you get this rehearsal thing, you get these 3 weeks or however long it is. Yeah. To really go into it and go through it line by line and talk about it and decide and make decisions and discover it. Whereas more, certainly these days in television, it's rehearse, record, very, very quickly. There are very few rehearsal sessions now.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's a completely different process. I mean, on Outlander, we'll learn our scripts and we'll come in and we will rehearse the scene for an hour and then we'll shoot it. You know, it has to be very quick, make the decisions, you have to be on point. Whereas with theatre, and what I've discovered in this process with Stephen Dexter, who's just of course done Pippin, award-winning revival of that musical, we have a great time to really collaborate on this and really work together and bring each other ideas, and there's not as much pressure. We can play about with things more, you know? So that's fully what I've enjoyed out of this experience the most. The downside of that, of course, is that on the Outlander thing, you go and you rehearse it for an hour, and then you do a take. However, if that take's not right, you do another one. Yeah. You can do it 3 or 4. About the 5th one, they start looking at you a bit. Yep, definitely been there. In your own time, love, you just try and be... And you get my favourite, the greatest I've ever heard. I think it was on take 9 or something I was doing with Paul C, the director, who said... You were on take 9. Yeah. Could we... just... My only note for this one, Don, was if you could just be... better. Yeah. I've run it. That's someone who's read directing with actors. Yeah. Just be better. Yeah. But however, you do have that option in a thing. Whereas now, you talk about it all you like. When the curtain goes up, you got to do it.
and then you got to do it again.
Yeah.
And you got to do it again. You got to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for the entire run,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And you can fiddle about a little bit.
Yeah.
But you ain't making any big changes, and there are no second chances.
There are no second chances, but there is the beautiful benefit of immediate feedback. I think that's the electricity that I've kind of discovered that I love in theatre, you know, is that you're performing and you can actually see how you are getting across to people. Oh, do I need to do a bit more of this? I need to bring a bit more of that because it's right there in front of you, you know? Whereas in film, there's that disconnect sometimes, you know?
Yeah, in film, 6 or 7 people tell you, no, that was fine. That was really good.
Yeah.
And then a year later, sometimes, you'll find out whether they were telling you the truth or not.
Exactly. Whether they just had to get onto the next take.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. They were just making the one we make do. Well,
We'll
you
fix
find
that in
out whether
post.
that was absolutely brilliant, meant that's as good as you're going to get. No, you've never had that. I'm teasing you because you've never had that at all. So let's do the homework, the housekeeping. It's at the press night is. It still says Monday the 17th.
Press night is the 7th. We go on for previews on the 3rd. And we run
so
till
previews of the
previews
3rd.
of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Press night 7th, and then we run for a couple of weeks up until the 26th of February.
Wow.
At the New Wimbledon Theatre.
Which
So
is a lovely theatre.
not the West End, you know. We're branching out. We're representing Wimbledon
It's as
here.
near as damn it now, the West End, Wimbledon. I always think of Wimbledon, Richmond, those places. Yeah, they used to be, we'll take it out on the road.
Yeah.
But if you're on the tube,
Yeah.
you're in
I guess
London.
so. Yeah.
You're in London.
You are.
And it is, when you say it's a one-man play, it is literally just you.
It is a one-man show with a fantastic set design, fabulous soundtrack. It's all going to come together really well.
You looking forward to it?
I mean, we're very excited.
And
very
what's
excited.
coming? Have you any idea what's coming up next?
And then we go back to film Outlander season 7.
Ah.
So then I'll be back on that for a year.
And have you signed up for that? Because what if they say the Drury Lane's just come free and we need to get this into the West End?
Luckily, there's books on Outlander, so I know that at least I'm not going to die in the show. But, but yeah.
Listen, John, thank you so much for coming in. It's a difficult topic, but it handled very, very well, and you're going to be brilliant in it. And
Pleasure.
thank you for giving up
having me.
some of your valuable Sunday.
Thank you so much.
Although you've only come, I've just
come down the road.
You just stripped across the road. John Bell, thank you so much. You're listening to Bob Mills on Talk Radio.